I'm Terry Jones, founder of Travelocity.com, founding chairman of Kayak.com, and I've been speaking and writing on disruption and innovation for the last 15 years. So it's a pleasure to join you in a virtual program today because we're all going virtual. So today I'm going to show you two programs. The first is a 20-minute version of my speech, Disruption Off. That also comes in 30, 45, and 60-minute versions and can be combined with my speech on innovation. And importantly, I always customize my speeches for the particular industry that I'm speaking to. The one today is generic. And then after the program is over, I'm going to take you behind the scenes into my studio to show you how I produce these sophisticated virtual programs. Let's get started. Digital transformation, a key objective of almost every corporation before COVID. But today we're talking about digital disruption as every company is racing to keep up with its digital consumer. Leaders are worried. They're worried because they've seen disruption in so many industries, in music and in hotels and in payments. And things are moving much faster today. How much faster? Well, think of it this way. The telephone took 75 years to reach 50 million users. Pokemon Go did it in 15 days. 75 years to 15 days. That's the speed of change today, principally because of connectivity. We're all connected to new innovations. And today, we're in the midst of the biggest business and social disruption of our lives. During this time, digital transformation isn't slowing. Surveys show it's actually accelerating. It's critical to understand that during this crisis, selling and buying and making have changed forever. We're not going back. Recently, I interviewed a good friend, Jesus Mantas. He runs strategy for a $63 billion IBM division. Let's see what he had to say about transformation.
Surveys are showing that digital transformation is not slowing after COVID-19. In fact, it's accelerating. What are you seeing with IBM customers?
And now is beyond adaptation, is how do we emerge stronger from this opportunity? And as you said, everybody is actually looking at what are the things that we can accelerate? Before, digitizing things was an option for more competitive advantage. In some of these industries, it's becoming the only way you can survive.
It's about survival. Think of how one disruption can change every industry. Take self-driving cars, for example. It's pretty clear they're going to displace truck drivers. But how about insurance? Moving from actuarial to actual data. And then parking. You're not going to park anymore. You're going to send your car home and bring it back when you need it. Auto repair. If your car is electric, there isn't much to fix. Real estate redesigned. Deliveries reimagined. Hotels? Well, honey, let's just sleep in the car. We're almost to Vegas. Healthcare. The number 3 reason for emergency room visits is car wrecks. They're going to go down. Hospitals will be redesigned. Revenue will change. Outdoor advertising, a multi-billion-dollar industry. Who's going to look out the window anymore? Even traffic cops. Who are you going to arrest? Elon Musk? So all this disruption just from one new innovation. So I want to talk to you about 9 forces of disruption, 9 technological changes that are coming for your company. If you're King Kong, use these technologies to attack the other big guy in your market. If you're a startup, then they can be your slingshot, like David and Goliath. So let's talk first about connectivity. Now, in the beginning, websites look like this because it was 1996. There was no search. And remember this? Yes, it was slow. It was really, really slow. That's why you see so much white space on these websites. But that limited connectivity equaled great opportunity. An opportunity that allowed us to disrupt music that went from the album to by the song, maps that went to digital and free, books that went to digital and cheap, encyclopedias that went to digital and cheap, and then free. And then we got a little more speed in the internet and the ability to create our own content. And user-generated content and more speed led to more disruption. So hotels went to sharing, and photography went to cheap and sharing, and limos went to sharing and cheap, and news went to sharing and free, and software went to free and ad-based. More disruption. That connectivity has allowed e-commerce to increase 50% during COVID, has made Instacart hire 100,000 workers to deliver those online orders. And guess what? Half of online shoppers say they're not going back to the old way. And by the way, we're not going back to the office either, as 74% of large companies say that at least some of their workers will continue to work at home for the foreseeable future. How about mobility, another disruptor? There's 7 billion cell phones in the world. 5 billion of them are network connected. In my business, if you're not connected, you're not in business. And oh, by the way, the App Store, another $50 billion disruptor. We're about to get even more speed in mobile with the advent of 5G. 5G allowing for smart cities, allowing for broadband to come wirelessly to your home, allowing surgeons to place operations across the country, the Internet of Things, all coming because of 5G. Now, if you think about all the disruption that a 1200 baud modem caused, what's 20 gigabytes going to do? I don't think we know, but it's going to be highly disruptive. And during COVID, all kinds of changes, including, remember the Amazon Go store, the one without clerks, where everything was done by IoT and mobile? Seemed like a crazy idea pre-COVID. Now it seems like they had a crystal ball. Big data. Another big change, and big data is really big, 2.5 quintillion bytes a day. Where to put it? Well, luckily along came the cloud. Why is the cloud important? It's instantly available, infinitely scalable, insanely inexpensive, and drop dead easy. That's why it's so important. It's a game changer. It's why 2 guys in a startup now have all the computing power of a Fortune 500 company. That's a game changer. It's also about instant learning from your customers. So John Deere doesn't have to wait till the annual dealer meeting to learn from the dealer what the tractor drivers are doing with tractors this year. They can monitor it all the time and update it whenever they want. How about AI? AI is the new UI. It's the new user interface. Voice. Voice is a disruptor. Listen to this guy for a minute.
Alexa, order toilet paper.
Amazon's choice for toilet paper is Angel Soft Bath Tissue.
That's cool.
That is cool, but it's also disruptive. Because if I go to Amazon today, I have many choices of toilet paper above the fold. How many did Alexa offer? Only one. What's it going to cost to be the one? You think search is expensive? Boy, as we move from e-commerce to v-commerce, things are going to be disrupted again. And oh, by the way, during COVID, 35% more people are shopping with voice speakers. Now, if you add AI to the technologies we already discussed, you get a superpower that is pushing ahead all the technologies we're going to talk about now. So let's talk about IoT, the Internet of Things. 75 billion things to be connected to the Internet by 2025. I've worked with Honeywell for the last few years, and for over a century, they've been putting sensors all through industry to detect when something goes wrong. So the red light goes on. That's good, but then you have to figure out what the red light means. So they went from sensing to meaning. the compressors off, shut off the air conditioning in section 1. And then they went from meanings to action. We've turned the backup on, and we've automatically dispatched service. From sensing to meaning to action. That's an outcome, an entirely new business model. Now, IoT is doing lots of other things during COVID, allowing people to open a valve remotely rather than sending someone out. Even baby thermometers are being updated. The thermometer detects the temperature, you check it with your iPhone, it says, hey, I can connect you to a doctor right now. I think your child really is sick. And by the way, it can consolidate all that information to watch a disease and report on its spread. What about robotics? We've had robotics in industry for a long time, but they're becoming more pervasive, like here at Tesla. But there's also this first responder robot, this concierge robot that my company made for Hilton. We're seeing them pop up all over the place. Post-COVID, we're seeing the one on the bottom, the Germinator, rolling into hospital rooms and killing COVID. The one on top, cleaning an airport, and the one below, Walmart bought tens of thousands of these to make sure that they're always up to date with stock. So they search through the store every night, checking for stockouts. How about 3D printing, additive manufacturing? Well, we're seeing parts, cars, healthcare devices, entire homes being built. 90% of hearing aids are 3D printed. That happened in only 4 years. The companies that didn't change, well, they're gone. Recently, GE got the first engine part that's 3D printed approved by the FAA. Think about how it was made before. A bunch of little suppliers each made their piece. They sent them to an assembler who put it together and stuck it in a warehouse, waited for the order, and then when the order came, they put it on a ship and a truck and sent it to GE. Drop one 3D printer into that mix. All that supply chain is gone. GE gets a part that's cheaper, lighter, faster, stronger, and has no inventory. And what about the insurance company, the subassembler, the container ship, the customs broker that participated before? They're not needed anymore. Isn't it better to be the disruptor than the one who's disrupted? Now, we talked about 9 forces of disruption. We could talk about 90 more. The point is, if you don't like change, you're going to like irrelevance even less. We have to deal with change. We have to own the edge in the 21st century. Owning the edge used to be about having a store at First and Main, but now it's about being on the edge of the glass. The new edge can be almost anywhere. Like this Shell product that automatically detects you're running out of gas and says, hey, there's a store only a mile ahead, and if you come in now, get gas and I'll give you free coffee. Like my Brita that automatically orders its own filters from Amazon. Or my smart air filter in my furnace that orders its own replacement. That's owning the edge. That's part of a set of new business models, like OPA, other people's assets. So Uber looked at the traditional limo business and said, well, we don't want to own cars, license cars, and service cars. Reviews enforce our standards, drivers find us, we'll just do these 4 things, add some amazing software, and become the biggest limo company in the world. When I left Travelocity, I looked back at the business model and said, well, at Kayak, we don't want to do this, and we don't want to do this. We'll just create a brand, search for products, and book tickets. And then we said, no, we won't build a brand, we'll use Google. And we won't book tickets, we'll send customers to the airline. We'll just do one thing, add some software. What is Kayak anyway? It's just a thin layer between the customer and the supplier worth $1.8 billion. Owning the edge can be very profitable. How about O&O, over and over, subscriptions, or D2C, direct to consumer? Now, subscriptions probably started with the Book of the Month Club, but who would have thought we'd subscribe to razors, Dollar Shave Club, and they sold for over $1 billion. And direct-to-consumer, Warby Parker glasses, Away suitcases, worth billions by going direct. Now, companies also are growing by disrupting the experience. So think about how Apple disrupted Nokia, how Uber disrupted Yellow Cab, how Dollar Shave Club disrupted Gillette just by changing how we buy and use a product. Disruption comes in many forms, but it's all about less capital and more speed. Less capital and more speed. And you say, well, that's not fair. I have the factory, the supply chain, the salespeople, the assets, the brand. But maybe you're not easy. And these companies are drop dead easy. We have a saying in Silicon Valley, step 1, install software. There is no step 2. That's how easy Uber is to use. Are you that easy? What's your new model going to be? Recently, I spoke to the Hartford Steam Boiler Insurance Company. They've been insuring industrial boilers since 1866. I said, what's new around here? They said, we just got into cybersecurity and we bought an Internet of Things company. Wow. They know industrial processes, they know inspection, they know how to measure risk, and they're comfortable with it. They're going to be a 200-year-old company because they're playing to their strengths in the new world. So, what's the new edge? Will you be the leader in contactless shopping? Be the first in robotic delivery? Win at telemedicine? Move into home call centers? How will you change? There's more change ahead, folks. What's holding you back from being a disruptor? What's holding you back? 50% of executives are dissatisfied with the state of innovation in their company. I'd say they should look in the mirror. Maybe it has to do with them. What's their appetite for risk? Do they avoid it, reduce it, transfer it, or accept it? In the 21st century, you've got to accept it. I started my career as a receptionist in a travel agency almost 50 years ago. 6 months in, my manager said, let's go do a startup. And you might think that was a big risk, but it was a small risk. I was single, I was 21, I wasn't making much money anyway. And we turned it into the 50th largest travel company in the US. Later, I went to American Airlines and started climbing the ladder from director all the way up to chief information officer. When I was CIO, I took a huge risk. I was married, I had 2 kids, a big mortgage, a big salary. I said, you know that little department, the online thing we got? I want to go run that. And they said, you're nuts. I said, it only has 11 people. I said, no, I think we can change it into something big. And we turned it into Travelocity and took it public for $1.2 billion. Since then, I've taken a lot of small risks. I've been a speaker, an author. I've served on 19 boards. As I look back at those companies, some of them shrank, some of them blew up entirely. And the rest of them created $6 billion worth of value, and 2 of them are internet unicorns, billion-dollar startups. Big risk, big reward. So take the first risk. You might fail, but failure opens the door to success. Check the mirror again. Are you as agile as these guys? You have to be as agile as these guys in the 21st century if you want to succeed. So recently I interviewed Bill Connor. Bill's the chairman of SonicWall, a company where I serve on the board. Listen to his story about agility.
Bill, security companies have been at the center of the COVID-forced transition to work from home. I understand one of your companies asked you to transition 350,000 employees to work from home securely almost overnight.
When that CIO called and said, Bill, you got to help us. We got to move this in less than 2 weeks. We got it. And fortunately, our technology was built that it could scale globally on that kind of basis. And within a week, we turned up almost 350,000 of their employees for this, what we call the new business norm.
How about decision making? Everybody's envious of those guys in Silicon Valley because they make decisions so very fast. But in corporations, you launch your idea out there and, well, marketing says that's a stupid idea. IT says we can't write the software for that. If you get through them, well, then service says they can't fix it. Manufacturing says they can't build it. And if you manage to get through them, well, then it's time for the big guns because they bring out finance and legal and, well, it just can't. But you know, it doesn't have to be that way. If you come together, you have more skills than any startup. You just have to stop saying no and realize in the 21st century, your job is to get that new idea over the finish line. Stop saying no. Understand you must say yes. Fail again. Fail better. Learn more. Maybe you're just chained to an old business model. If somebody comes in with a new idea, do you say, well, Barbara, we've always done it this way, and we've actually never done it that way? What happens when you say that? The air goes out of the room. You'll never get a new idea from her again. What is dangerous is not to evolve. We must evolve. We have to face our fears. Disruption, innovation, disruption, they're just two sides of the same coin. We only call it a disruption because we didn't do it. If we did it, it would be an innovation. So stop being disrupted. Their innovation can be your disruption, but you can act. So stop being disrupted and innovate. And as you think about these new technologies, don't just recreate the past, reimagine what the future can be. Will you be the leader in drone delivery, the innovator in contactless shopping, use robots to revolutionize your sector, reshape your company for the new normal? With these new technologies and innovation, you can. Because folks, change is inevitable, but growth is optional. Wow, I think I'm hearing virtual applause. Thank you very much. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And now it's time for a behind-the-scenes look at the studio I built to produce my virtual programs. So as you know, I've been a keynote speaker for 20 years. And then along came COVID-19 and, well, you know what happened to the speaking business. So I had to change. But how to change? I didn't want to be that terrible webinar guy, you know, the one who drones on without any visuals. And I didn't want to be that guy out of focus in the dark in the corner of Zoom. And I didn't want to be that person in the office who really didn't have any graphics. I'm sure she's a good speaker, but she could upgrade her graphics. I believe our competition as virtual speakers is television. Here on CNN, you see a different point of view. You see some data. You see a lower third emphasizing what the interview is about, and then a crawl on the bottom talking about other stuff just to keep our attention. I wanted to be that super cool presenter, but I wasn't ready to go to holograms. I've always used graphic slides, but I wanted to show me as well how to do that. Well, I needed a studio. And this is the studio I built. Now, it looks pretty complicated. It's really not, and you don't need one this complicated, but I'll take you through the pieces of it and I'll share these slides with you later so you can buy the gear if you want to. Now, if you want to be Superman, you got to have a green screen because that's the only way Superman works. Because you might want to look like this, but you might want to look like that. So, I got a green screen. I started with this one. It's a pull-up green screen, and it's great as it stores away quickly. But perhaps it wasn't wide enough, and it might not be wide enough for you if you're using a built-in camera. So I added this one, a Valera. It's 80 inches wide, and it knocks down very small, so it's wide enough for almost anything. And I noticed they also have a pull-up version, which might be wide enough for you, and it's very light. It's only 11 pounds. Now, speaking of light, you got to have good light if you're going to do a video. So first of all, you have to light the green screen. And I saw a YouTube video that said, just buy some cheap shop lights, LED shop lights, and some tripods. And that's what I did. I put a little bracket on those lights, I hung them on either side of the green screen, and it produces the image you see here. So that works pretty well. Now, above the green screen, you see what's called a hair light. Now, I don't have any hair, but I do need to light me from behind so that I get some definition of my shoulders. So that's another important tip. Now, I needed to darken the room because I had a lot of curtains, so I went and bought some pipe at Home Depot and these curtains from Amazon, and I can darken the room whenever I want, and then when I'm just working in my office, I can light it again. And those are just mounted on plywood, so it's easy enough to take those pipes out later when hopefully I'm done with COVID and back to traveling. Now, you also have to light you. So make sure you get an LED with color adjustment. I'm going to grab this remote here for a second. I don't normally do that. And you can see I went to white, I went to cold, and I went to warm. So Depending on your coloration, your skin tone, your hair color, if you have hair, you may need to make these kind of adjustments, and they'll do that for you. Make sure you get LEDs if you're buying new. I used to have fluorescents. They're very hot. So these are Mount Dog LEDs. They're real easy to get now, and they really produce a nice light. Now, of course, you also need a camera. And there are a billion cameras out there on YouTube, videos that'll tell you what to get. I got a Sony AX100. That's a 4K camera. You probably don't need one that good, but I'm making a lot of videos, so I wanted to go to 4K. I had an original camera that cost a little bit less. I think this is a $400 or $500 camera. Can't see the price right here. Let me peer at it. No, that's a $660 camera, excuse me. And my brother wanted it. So I sent it to him, and that's the image he gets. Now, he knows something about cameras because he's a National Geographic photographer. So a $600 camera was just fine. How about sound? You're going to need a good microphone. I got these Rhodey microphones. They're high-end lavs, and you can see the price there, $199. They're very good. They're small, and what I really like about them is you can recharge them, no batteries required, and they last for 7 hours. Now, if you're at a desk, you can get a desk mic. I'd suggest the Yetis. The Yetis are great. I use them for my audiobook. Terrific mics, also available at a reasonable price. What about monitors? Why two? Well, I want my slides to be big so I can see them. I want to be looking at the camera, but if I'm doing a Zoom presentation, I also want to see what's on Zoom. Do they have me spotlighted? Am I actually live? What's going on? So that one's a little off to the left. Now, obviously the camera's right above and I look there. Now you might also want a couple other things. Obviously you need a slide remote to push your slides if you're using them. I also have a cell phone stand, and I put my cell phone there because my assistant is on there watching remotely, and she can text me if something goes wrong and I'm not seeing it on Zoom. Now, I also have something you may not need, another camera and a seated monitor. So when I sit down for Q&A after a 1-hour program or a 40-minute program, if I'm going to do another 20 minutes of Q&A, I'd like to sit down. So I have a second monitor and a second camera just for that. You might say it's too much of an extra, but it works for me. Now, to put this show together, you need a mixer and a switcher because you want to put together your image along with the slides and end up with something like this. And to do that, you need a switcher. This is my control deck, and you can see that my wife is running it. I have my Mac with a presentation on the left and my Mac that's running the switcher on the right. So this is what I use. It's an ATEM mini switcher, costs about $300. So we need this to put the presentation and the talent together. So you plug your presentation Mac into port 1, just like you'd plug it into a projector. Port 2 is your camera, and then you can have 2 or 3 more. And then there's an output USB, and you plug that USB-C into your Mac, your second Mac that's connected to Zoom, and to that Mac it looks like a webcam. So it puts it all together. YouTube could help you set it up. There are lots of great YouTube videos about this. I learned from this one. Is this the only way to do it? No. I have a pretty complex setup, but it works for me, and it costs me a little over $1,000. If you had a $300 camera, and obviously the better camera, the price goes up. Now, there are other ways you can do it. Some people use a desk setup. I like to stand up because I think I speak better standing, but many people sit. And so this is a good setup if you're sitting. And here's my brother's in Hawaii. You can see he has all the same gear, but he's sitting down and he ends up with an image that looks like this, which I think is pretty good. Now, there are other things you can do. So you really don't have to buy a switcher. You can use software. So there's Mimo Live. There's some great videos about this on YouTube. They do this all in software. For me, I started early. The software really wasn't ready, but I think I produce a better program through hardware. And there's another new one called Uh-huh. And that's evolving pretty quick. It was in beta a few months ago. Now I think it's out, and take a look at it, another way to do it. Now, I do have some additional goodies. I have this thing called a Stream Deck, which I'm holding in my hand. It makes me a producer, so I can move myself on and off the screen. I can change the camera. I can change the background. You know, I can move up like this, or I can move back and cut myself on the screen, and I don't need anyone else to do that. So that's helpful because with COVID, it's hard to get somebody else. Kind of crazily, I also have a foot pedal. I have that because Zoom now makes you unmute yourself. So if the talent back at the production studio mutes your Zoom and you have to unmute yourself, I can't run around to the Mac, so I just do that with a foot pedal. So build yourself a studio. It's not that hard, and you can be as good a virtual speaker as you are in a ballroom. Wow, I think I'm hearing virtual applause. Thank you very much.
So welcome back to the Virtual Speaker Summit. I am sure you are learning so much and sharpening so many important skills to make sure that you are excellent in the virtual environment. The reason we're doing this is because speakers all across the country, all across the world, were asking, how do we do this with class, with style, with comfort, and knowing how to do it extremely well? Because we want to help you attract more gigs. So this is Angela Heath with TKC Incorporated, your host for today. And this segment, oh my gosh, this is going to be very good. One of the tools that many of you are using is Zoom. And so we have with us Robbie Samuels, who's a keynote speaker. He's a TEDx speaker. And he's really known for relationship-based business strategy and coaching. He, in fact, was dubbed a networking expert by Harvard Business Journal and Forbes and a host of other people. He is a certified virtual convener and a certified virtual presenter. Now, Robbie created this program called 5% Advantage, which is a 4-week certification program for presenters who really want to grow their confidence in using Zoom and understand virtual event design, and just to kind of reduce some of the anxiety around the whole experience of online engagement. So I am happy to introduce, guys, Robbie Samuels.
Hey, thank you so much for having me here, Angela.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing
really
great.
Good to see you. Really good to see you. So we always start these interviews off with, how did you start doing what you're doing now? Because many of these speakers are pivoting. So share with us just your elevator speech about this pivot during COVID virus and where you sort of ended up at.
Well, as you mentioned in that introduction, and thank you for that, those kind words, my specialty, my expertise was in networking. And I had been building up a reputation over the last dozen years, speaking, and I wrote a book back, 2017 it came out. I've been hosting a podcast for over 4 years, all on the theme of networking at events. I did a TEDx in 2019. I was working with organizations to help them design more engaging conferences. I was helping individuals make more out of those experiences and actually actualize their intentions around networking. And then March 9th. And then I realized pretty much the things I was known for, handshakes, eye contact, business cards, and body language, not super relevant in this new world. And by March 11th, I was really trying to figure like, how do I show up? How do I add value? Like, what's my place in all of this? And my peer mastermind kind of kicked me in the butt that day and said, Robbie, you don't think of networking just as something you do in person, and you know more about online and online events than most people. go write something. So I wrote 9 ways to network in a pandemic. I published that on the 12th of March, which was Thursday. I then realized I should probably do one of those things. And one of those things was to host a happy hour, a virtual happy hour. So I asked a few people online if they'd come. They said yes. I said, okay, 5. So the timing and the day of my weekly event was completely random. Friday at 5 was the time I had available the next day. And I asked around on Friday, people wanted to come and join us. We had 20 people. We had a good experience. I started doing that every week. April 14th, I decided to formalize that with a Zoom registration form. So I started getting opt-ins. There's now been over 700, nearly 800 people who've signed up for that in the last few months. In May, that then turned into a 4-week program, and that you just mentioned that was a pilot that is now a 4-week certification program for presenters. But also it turns out for not just presenters, but people in meetings. The meeting planners have started to come because they're trying to also figure out how to pivot and make use of their skills in this new world. And the weekly No More Bad Zoom virtual happy hours, that's the branding now, No More Bad Zoom, have continued every week, and I foresee them going for quite a while. It's been so much fun. 50 or 60 people come to each of them, and we do a lot of things, like a mixture of content, networking. I do a ton of Q&A at the end, and it's just an opportunity for people to explore and experiment with this platform and see how do we use this to create and design more engaging online experiences.
That's great. And guys, I can testify to that because I attend on some Fridays, and it really is excellent. I would advise you all to check out No More Bad Zone. Okay, let's get into the actual content that we want to share with the viewer. So you said that there are certain skills that really make an exceptional online virtual event. Can you talk a little bit about what do we really need to do this?
So let's say I gave you an award-winning French cookbook and told you that if you just follow the steps in this cookbook, you're going to make amazing French cuisine. And as I hand it to you and you're opening it up, you're thinking, wait, I don't have any of these ingredients. You know, I don't know if I'm comfortable with sharp knives, and I don't always measure things properly. Like, how confident do you think you're going to be that you're going to make amazing French cuisine? Well, in the world of digital events, digital experiences, the settings are the ingredients. If you reach to open breakout rooms and they're not enabled, you just don't have them, right? If you go to do whiteboard or like polls and you haven't set them up and you don't know how to use them, like not having it available is not having the ingredients. So I offer a free resource. This isn't even an email opt-in. It's just robbiesamuels.com/Zoom settings. That's a PDF. And on that PDF is also a link to a 12-minute video, and I will walk you through all the settings that I think you should either enable or disable to have the right mix of ingredients. So that's the first thing. The second thing is online facilitation skills. So facilitating in person and facilitating online are just 2 different things. Now, it's helpful to have experience facilitating in person because I think you have good instincts. But in person, if someone's talking a little too long, you can kind of lean in, kind of look at them, but online it doesn't work. In person, if they're on a stage, you might even go to the edge of the stage. You might walk up the side of the stage. You might get on the stage. You might come close. None of that works. And so there's techniques you have to learn. And for that purpose, that example, I start repeating in an affirmative kind of way what people are saying. Oh, okay. Yeah. That sounds like it was a fun trip to allow. No, thank you for sharing. No, it was great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. So the next person is, right. And then there's a technique like making sure you know who's going to be going when you're doing introductions. If you have fewer than 20 people, maybe you want to go around the room and get a quick intro or feedback or something. If it's more than 20, I think it's just labor intensive and not a good use of time. But most people, their instinct as presenters is to say, okay, I'm going to go in the order that I see on my screen, but the order changes. If people join or leave or turn on off their camera, and now you're left saying, oh, wait, I'm sorry, wait, did Mary go? I'm looking all where. So don't do that. And also don't put the first person on the spot. They don't know they're first. They don't know who's on the top left corner of your screen. So I suggest either writing down a list or using the participant list. If you mute everybody, then they'll all be alphabetical. And whatever way you do, make sure people know who's going first. So I would say something like, okay, Angela, in a minute we're going to do introductions and you're going to go first, but here's the instructions. And then, okay, thanks. That was the instructions. So now Angela and then Beth. right? So you're A. So you're like, okay, I might be first. Oh, I am first. Now, Beth wasn't paying close attention perhaps, but I say her name and now she goes, oh, I better pay attention to what Angela's doing. And then I would say, okay, now it's going to be Beth and Christine and so on. So that on deck method, I think, is really helpful. So the last thing in these three things you need, one is the settings, one is the online facilitation skills, and the other is a really good grasp of how the technology works. So for instance, knowing that when you get in, you are going to open up your chat, you're going to open up your participant window, right? And you're going to have all that ready to go. And you're actually going to walk your participants through doing the same thing. And you're going to point things out to them like, oh, hey, once you open the participant window, you're going to see on the bottom, raised hand, yes, no, go faster, go slower, and a whole bunch of other things. If you see that, check yes. Now, why do we do that? Because we want to make sure people have seen it. But I've seen, people not enable that. That is called nonverbal feedback, is what it's called under settings. The yes, no feature is called nonverbal settings, nonverbal feedback. And I think it's really important to have things like that there. But also, I've seen people stumble where they say, okay, if you see everything that's happening in the participant window, go to chat and say yes. It's like, wait, why are you making me go to another place? Like, if you want to know that I have chat open, ask me a question, right? I've seen some really good examples from my students where they'll put up a funny kind of picture and they'll ask, what do you think is happening here in chat? Tell us what you think is happening here. And that's like a kind of a fun icebreaker way to get people engaged in the conversation right away. And they're using chat. So little techniques like this, knowing how to smoothly use breakout rooms, but also knowing how to send people to breakout rooms with the kind of question that they will be able to grapple in the right amount of time with the right number of people. I think that knowing how to do this, like as a physical, okay, I can press these buttons, and then using that well, those are two different things. So mostly I will say, Angela, that YouTube is fantastic for how. Like if you're not sure how to use whiteboards or breakout rooms or polls, YouTube's wonderful. Zoom.us has a ton of resources that most people have not read or watched about how to use their content. But knowing how to do it and then when to use it, how to design a good experience, because ultimately, going back to the metaphor of the French cookbook, you don't want to stay following the recipe. Eventually, you want to adapt this recipe to be your own, and it will become a family recipe because you will have made enough changes and modifications that it will just be instinct. You'll know, oh, it's time to make this dish. I'm going to just go about doing it. And if you don't have something, you're going to wing it. You'll be happy with that. So I want us to learn. I want us to have the settings and learn online facilitation and learn the tech so that we no longer have to worry about that, so that we can focus on our message and then design an experience that meets the purpose of that gathering and the promise that participants are asking us to keep, which generally comes down to events are about content and connection. They always have been, and they continue to be in this virtual world.
Okay, that's great, Robbie. Thanks for sharing that. Let's talk about, when people decide they want to have some type of online event. I mean, everybody is saying, oh, let's do an online event. It's just really hot now. And frankly, people are getting a little Zoom fatigue. I think that's what they call it. But let's talk about, the purpose of the event and how does that purpose for what we want to offer our customers, our fans, what we want to offer and how that helps shape what we come up with.
Well, first I want to address this piece around Zoom fatigue. About 10 days ago, I was hosting the Kickoff Event, the Kickoff reception for a 3-day conference that happened to be the same week as another 3-day event that a lot of people had been to. So the same organization had 2 events sort of back to back for 2 different communities that overlapped. So on Wednesday, 4 o'clock Eastern, I start this kickoff reception, welcome reception. Now, those are generally to check tech. We want to make sure people are comfortable with Zoom. We were also using Slack, so we're doing that. We did a bunch of breakout rooms. How long do you think that whole session lasted? Do you think it was 20 minutes, an hour, 2 hours? Would you be surprised if I told you it lasted over 3.5 hours? That it was actually close to 4 hours when we were done? So Zoom fatigue, in my understanding, is that it's that you have to have highly relevant content and a highly engaging presentation. If you have highly relevant content, which that was, and highly engaging presentation, which it was, people won't leave. And I had to actually finally tell them, okay, and our next thing is we're going to play a song for 2 minutes. And when we're done, you can stack the blue chairs to the right and green chairs to the left, no more than 5 high. And then people were still there 2 minutes later. Like I was like, okay, I'm moving people to the waiting room now. So it was like 3 hours and 54 minutes. Like we were going to just keep going. I was joking around because I was making a lot of puns, a lot of jokes. I said, don't worry, I've got 5 hours of jokes written out for you, 5 hours of material. And they were like, oh, that's great. I was like, oh, they're never going to leave. So Zoom fatigue is you have to have at least one of those two. So let's just think if I were about to buy my first home. I've never purchased a home, so I'm a first-time home buyer. I'm nervous about the process. Some real estate agent says they're going to go through a lesson online. Now, let's say they're super boring. They have slides, they don't show the picture, and they read their slides, which are full of text. Awful. What am I doing? Taking notes because it's hyper relevant to who I am and what I need. Now, the reverse is kind of true too. Like neuroscience. I think I'm curious about neuroscience. It's not a main thing that I do, but I'm a little curious. If I hear about a presentation and it's a good presentation, I'll stick around. But I've also went to one, the guy started reading his slides, and 20 minutes later, I was like, peace, I'm out. Like I don't need to stick around. It's not hyper relevant, and I got other things to do. So first, make sure whatever you're designing that you know what the purpose is, because I think sometimes when we're doing in-person events, we forgot to ask ourselves, should we be having this event? It was an annual event or a monthly event, and so we just kept doing it. This is an opportunity to stop and actually assess, should we be having this event? What is the purpose of this event? What are the outcomes we're aiming for? And online, you can't actually have a zillion objectives. In person, I feel like you can manage more of them, but online, you need to have one main objective and maybe maybe 1 or 2 secondary, maybe even 1 tertiary. But you've got to know, like, what is the big objective here? And then, there's some great tools that I learned from conveners.org when I got certified as a virtual convener. And they have one that is, my core community is blank. And when they leave this convening, they will feel blank, think blank, and do blank. So that's like a Mad Libs version of this, right? And you need to have a verb, you want to be really specific, and you always want to have the perspective of the participants. And then there's this other version they have, which is people moving from thinking one thing to thinking another thing, and from doing one thing to doing another thing. Like those are some of the ways to think about purpose. But again, getting on the same page with your committee. Let's say someone late in the game says, oh, I have this great idea, we're going to add blank. Go ahead, look back at your statement. Does it fit? Does it support that goal? If it doesn't, that's good for another event. We don't need to add random things. So I think that's important, whether it's an hour long, whether it's a half day, whether it's a 3-day event. It's worth all of us to slow down, make those considerations, because that will indicate what platform to use. Do you need breakout rooms? Do you want participants to actually be on camera or not? Is it better to be a webinar? Like, there's so many factors. So using that will help you determine kind of every other part of the decision-making process.
Okay. Yeah, it is very important to know why you're even having the event, because I've gone to a few events and I was wondering why I was there. So I'm thinking they're wondering why they were there also, the host. So this is something that I really am interested to hear your perspective of. You said there's a difference between approaching this in a sort of cinematic, that's the way we should think about it, or versus theatrical.
Yes.
What exactly do you mean by that?
So this was actually from an article by the director of global events for Microsoft, did an article in Fast Company where he said that in-person events are theatrical and online events are cinematic. And I'll actually say that Terry Jones, who I know is also on this summit, has said that when he's creating an online event, he says his competition is TV. So same idea, right? Like when people are coming to our online content, like that's what they have in mind. And so in person, there's a lot going on. And so you can keep people's engagement, there's movement, there's texture, there's life, right? And online, it's flat. And so if you're not careful, you end up with 45 minutes of death by PowerPoint, followed by ineffectual Q&A and no one moderating chat, which was never a good model and continues to not be a good model, except now people have a higher standard. Like they can't stomach what used to be. We didn't expect a lot from our virtual events before. They were like webinars. We didn't really worry about it. But we can no longer have a blasé attitude. So the neuroscience, and I actually, in the process of all this, I got interviewed by a neuroscientist about some other topic, and she mentioned to me that every 7 minutes is we need to have a state change. And so, me sharing my screen, or me talking to you and doing a demonstration, or me looking at chat and asking a question from chat, even me giving movement right now, like this, me, right? Like rather, like on stage, I would move from one side to the other side, and that would be a state change. And so if I just sit here very static and answer your questions, that's not a state change. And so I think of this as sort of episodic, that we have to sort of like puncture our moments, like punctuate with some sort of experience. And the reason my events, I think, live for hours is because I sort of have this now a little bit of an instinct around that. My Friday events, I thought were an hour long, and then they were an hour and a half long, and now they're 2 hours long, and the last 3 have been 2.5 hours long, and I have to still say goodbye to people, and they're like staying on the line. If I'm there, they're there, and I never want to be the first to leave. I'm an extrovert. That stacking chairs joke is my real life. I don't know how to leave. If there are people, I've stacked every kind of chair there is, Angela, because I don't leave. So I never want to be the first to hang up, and so I don't leave. They don't leave, and so it's just like this weird. So I think it's because when there's a lull, I shift. When there's a lull, I call someone's name. That's one of my techniques, by the way, is that I tend to tell a lot of bad dad jokes. Like I was telling bad dad jokes before I had kids, and now I'm double certified because I got 2 kids. That's another bad dad joke for you. So when I tell a bad dad joke and there's a little reaction from someone in the audience, and I always watch in gallery view, I identify that. I'll be like, yep, that's right, Angela. And what response is a bigger smile. And then next time I tell a joke, they give me a big smile because they know I'm paying attention. And next thing you know, you've got 3 or 4 people who are guffawing, and that raises the energy for everybody around it. Like it's so wonderful. So now everyone's engaged. They never know what I'm going to call on them. They never know when I'm going to shout out. I might have people unmute and come on stage with me. Like that spontaneity is what makes, I think, it fun and creative, and not just like Robbie's going to come here and teach you things about Zoom.
Right.
Wonder Dexter style. But yeah, I think episodic is really important. And so here's what you could do, a very specific, tangible thing. Look at the presentation that you've always done. Maybe you did it in person, so you've got this like good content. And think about when you can move off your slides. Like, so you're on your slides, and then when do you stop sharing your slides and move back to speaking to the audience? When might you move from your slides to a video clip? When might you launch a poll? When's a good time to see if there's any questions? And then all that requires practice. Like I've discovered a lot of people don't know how to move from, like right now I've got slides, and if I wanted to show you what I just was telling you about, this is the screenshot that I was reading from. So this is the slide that has the Mad Libs. And then I want to like end that and come back here. And then behind the scenes, I'm going to switch the screen, and now I'm going to share it again. And now this is the list of 12 objectives. This is both of those from conveners.org. And then I'm going to stop my share and come back to you. Now, if you don't know how to do that with your PowerPoint, your Keynote, or your Google Slides,
right,
well, I can teach you that. I have just actually, created Loom videos and video tutorials around that. But I'll give you the secret is look for in window. PowerPoint has had that for a long time and doesn't have to take over your full screen. And Keynote July 2020 version just came out with a play slideshow in window, but it doesn't allow you to see your notes. Oh, okay. Well, now I get. So now what you got to do is you have to share your screen in window to just the slides. And what I suggest doing is if you need your notes, print your PowerPoint as a PDF and then open it in another document. So you got your slides here and your PowerPoint as a PDF here, and then you can read through it. Or maybe you just copy the notes over to a document so you can read through it. You don't have to have them. The whole share portion of your screen, it's fraught with problems, which is a lot of people's shortcut workaround. It's just, so get good at that, because engagement, again, to have fun and do the event design, we've got to get comfortable with the tools. right? You can't make a good meal if you're like nervous about holding the knife. So.
That's good, Robbie. There are a lot of little things that people can do to improve their online performance, if you will, their hosting. And you always talk a lot about just little incremental increases with every event. In fact, you named your program the 5% Advantage.
Yeah.
So why do you think such small incremental increases are so important?
So if you're new to the online event space and I told you you've got to get 100% better overnight, you may not even bother trying. Like, that just sounds incredibly daunting. But if I say every time, this is the goal, every time you host or speak on an online event, get 5% better. Don't make the same mistake twice, right? I'm not saying you're never going to make a mistake, because you'll start stretching out of your comfort zone and you'll start trying things you weren't so sure about. Find safe places to practice. One of the best things you can do is start hosting pro bono, just for fun, gatherings of friends, of colleagues, anything, just to kind of get more time in the driver's seat. Speaking of driver's seats, my first time driving, my parents made me go with a driving instructor because they didn't want to be involved my very first time behind the wheel. And there I am, my hands, up here like this, grasping for dear life. And we turn a corner and the sun was setting and it like hit me right in the eye. And I couldn't move to bring my visor down. And the driving instructor had to reach over and do it. And then, think about me later on, even a short time later. Was I nervous about, at what point did I stop looking at the radio to change the dial, which makes me sound really old because I know it's all on our steering wheel now. But back in the day, you had to feel for it. You had to reach over and but you didn't look, you didn't stop and go, oh, you just kind of did it. So this is the kind of thing that doing it all the time, like breakout rooms, right now I can create a breakout room on the fly for, as long as there's nothing, I'm not trying to do any manual or anything like that. If I could just like randomize people and send them off, I can do that while I'm talking. When I was first doing it, and when you were probably first doing it, everyone, it's like mumbling to yourself. You're like, oh, wait, well, that's not right. And do you really want your audience watching you do that? So if you're still in the learning mode, here's a technique. First of all, get clear on the prompts you're sending people to the breakout room to do. And I can talk more about that in a moment, but then have someone else give the answer. So prep someone ahead of time and say, listen, here's going to be the prompt. And I would love for you to give your very concise 2-minute response to demonstrate what a concise 2-minute response is. And while you're doing that, I'll be behind the scenes under the hood trying to get the breakout room set up. And that way the camera all eyes go to that person. And then you can mumble to yourself with your mic off and get it all fixed. And then when they conclude, you say, that's great. So I hope that inspired a lot of great ideas in your head. Now you're off to breakout rooms. I think how smooth that experience is, right? Now, a lot of this is about preparation. And it, in some ways it feels like magic. It feels like magic, but I always want to point out, I don't know the exact stats and I haven't talked to a magician about this, but it feels like magic is 90% preparation and 10% presentation because the rabbit was always there. It's like, so if you can just plan for it, then you can create this incredible experience that people won't even notice they won't know why that was a better experience. They won't know, oh, he didn't mumble to himself. She didn't mumble to her, or she didn't stare at chat going like this. I'm looking for questions. I mean, there's all these techniques that I have for how to avoid, I don't know, they honestly feel like pet peeves. They're none of them are egregious, but when you add them together, they're noise that are sort of like just buzzing there. And it's like that annoying buzz that you can't get rid of. And that's part of that Zoom fatigue. And another one is when you don't which way to point. If you're telling people, so they've changed it. It used to be you had to click on the 3 dots in the top right corner of your screen, your own video, to change your name. Now you can click anywhere, or right click if you're on a PC. That's a really wonderful update. But it used to be you had to point. And if I went like this and said top right, that's not your, actually that is your top right. I got it right this time. This is not right. I'm so trained, I can't even not do it. And now I actually have started to do this because it's nicer than pointing. So this is a top right, but if I had said this, then you'd be like, why are you pointing? So this is part of Zoom fatigue, is not knowing, you know, earlier I made my joke about like stack the chairs to the right, to the left, right? But what if I had said that the opposite way? Your brain would have been like, that's not what I'm so, and that's mirroring. So it's another piece of technique. So now if I asked you on day one to figure all that out, would you even try? But if I asked you to tackle each one of them at a time, if you had a safe place to play in where, you know, you all take in turns learning things with your friends, then you get 5% better. Now it's time to do this in front of a client. You're way better than other people. And I'll just tell you, Angela, this is not a secret. I've talked about it before, but I think my first time opening a breakout room was March 20. And I don't think I had any idea that I had them before that. Much like everybody else, I thought that was an add-on. I thought it was something you paid for. I did not understand the enable piece. I had never been to Zoom.us settings. March 20. We're now talking in August, late August, you know, and I'm being invited to do all these talks. This is a new expertise I have. You know, I've been doing a weekly event since March 13th. I have a program that certified people. I help people bring their events online. I'm paid to be a Zoom producer, right? Like all of that is since March. And yet, you know, people can do this. I'm not an exception. It's just 5% better all the time. Keeping
Yeah. And you know, I mean, the same thing happened to me. It's like I've been online and I've been working with Zoom and training people on Zoom for years. And I didn't really know that this was something that I could add to my business line. I mean, I was basically just doing it out of the kindness of my heart. And when I was managing a mentoring group for, you know, people in like 12, 13 nations, it's that customer then said to me, you know, you really are good with this. You should offer it. And so I think that's what's happening a lot, Robbie, with all of us. You know, the pandemic has allowed us to either look back or look forward in a way that it creates so many new opportunities. And for the speakers who are watching, learning how to use tools like Zoom and StreamYard, and there are tons of them. But we're going to be focusing on those two during this summit because they both serve very different purposes. But knowing how to use those and being able to share that with potential customers, it will get you a lot more gigs. And that's the goal. Yeah.
Well, I just want to say that I think it's good to know all this, and I think it's also worthwhile to know your limitations. At an in-person event, the speaker was the talent, and all they had to do was show up on time. They were probably invited to a sound check. They go to the sound check. They get on the stage when it's their turn. They do their thing. They go. The AV was already provided. The venue was already provided. The music was already provided. You know, everything was already provided. Now we're being asked to educate our clients around how to use the technology. I'm often asked if people can use my Zoom link because I explain to them all the settings. They go, can we just use your stuff? I also know that if I have an event with more than 20 people, I want to bring a Zoom producer. And then I am now the Zoom producer for other people who are speakers and facilitators and trainers, because you don't expect everything to happen and the speaker to, we have to shift some of these expectations. The budget though should be paid for that Zoom producer out of the organization's budget, not the speaker's budget. Like the fact that you source and train that person should be the value add that you bring. But the fact that you need one should now become a given, that if you want to have a solid experience and there's more than 20 people, a Zoom producer will moderate your chat, will help you, make sure people are muted maybe, or manage your polling, or there's just lots of things. Honestly, the biggest thing they can do is copy the questions from chat into a separate Google document that is shared with you, so that when we pause during our presentation, we can kind of just pull that doc up to the surface, glance, and say, oh, I see a moment ago Mary asked a question. Let me just quickly answer that one. The other questions I'll be getting to during Q&A. Moving on. Rather than, okay, let's see if there's any questions. Looking through chat. Why are they talking about cats? What's going on, right? And then the Zoom producer, the chat moderator, deletes the question from the document. So poof, it's gone. Now it's time for Q&A, and there's already a bunch of questions on that document in the queue. And so there's always that moment of awkwardness where you're like, okay, folks, it's time for Q&A. And then you sit there waiting for people to write something. Be like, while everyone's writing something, here are some questions from earlier. Let me do this one. And then you can choose which one, not based on when you spotted it in chat, but based on the flow. Oh, I'm going to, you kind of have this instinct. Oh, I'm going to answer this one first and then this one. And then maybe you glance at chat and you realize that another question just came in that you want to respond to. And the Zoom producer is supporting you. Maybe they're reading you questions. Like it really, like, I mean, they can play advocate. They can be the participant sort of advocate and like ask the question on behalf of the audience that they would want to know. It can be more engaging. There's so much fun stuff you can do by having that additional help. But I do think even with that, a speaker needs to know how to move from their slides, right, to just being on camera. That's theirs. They gotta own that. Even when I say that though, when I work with speakers, I say, if you stay on a slide and you're no longer talking about that slide, I am going to stop the share. So if you suddenly realize you're on camera and you're not behind your slides, that's why. And when you're ready to move to your next slide, go ahead and reshare. So if they don't have that instinct yet, I'm like, oh, they're not talking about, like they read that content. Now they're in a story. I just stop the share. If they're going to bring have someone else ask a question, I stop the share and I make sure that other person comes on screen, right? So I can, like, in some ways, a Zoom producer is a professional. They're a director. Like right. I'm thinking about the experience in a very different way. As a speaker, it's hard to be having all those things happen at once. Right. You know, I don't record and share. I do record often, but I don't record and share my Friday events. And I always say it's because it would be kind of boring. It's very interactive, and to watch it from afar is not the same as being there. But also, I am not recording with a director lens. I got 60 people on the line, and it's sometimes just me. You know, I have a Zoom producer every other week. These are students of mine that come and get to practice, but I'm so focused on helping them have a good experience. I'm not like, let me make sure this is spotlighted and let me make sure this is recorded right. No, you can't, something's got to be let go. And so I know the replay is not going to be fantastic. Now I do focus on my guests. I had Terry come in, Terry Jones. When I have a special guest come in and share something awesome, I hope that that's a good segment. I will direct that segment and then record it, and then that will go up on my YouTube. But generally speaking, I'm not going to share it because I think what is the purpose? The purpose of that event is not that it's a replay. For some events, more people will watch the replay than be there live, in which case you better have a good experience, designing it. And for instance, always spotlight yourself before you share your slides, because otherwise, like we didn't spotlight me when I went and shared my slides. So you and I both showed up on the side, right? Now, if we want to not have you show up, then I have to be spotlighted, or in this case, I'd have to just go into my own, you'd have to put me in speaker view essentially, because we're only 2 people. The spotlight doesn't exist until you have 3. But it's just like little things like that. I mean, it's, again, 5% better, 5% right. better, 5% better. That it over time, it's tremendous. But we got to start somewhere. We all have to start somewhere.
Right. Well, Robbie, this was great. This was absolutely fantastic.
My pleasure.
Zoom is definitely one of those tools that we as speakers need to really know about. There are so many tools out there now. I did a scour, if you will, of tools that are currently available, and we'll make that available as one of the giveaways for the summit. There are so many tools, all the way from the simple video chats all the way up to the virtual reality type expos and everything in between. So you're going to have to just pick a couple that you become experts in, and Zoom is always one that's highly rated. It's one that most people around the world are familiar with. So you want to get good with Zoom. So Robbie, you mentioned earlier what your giveaway is. Do you want to just mention it again?
So I'm not sure. I know I wanted to invite people to come to nomorebadzoom.com. That's my weekly event. And then also my settings. So the No More Bad Zoom settings checklist, it's a PDF and a 12-minute video, is available at robbiesamuels.com/Zoom settings. And that one doesn't even have an email opt-in. You're welcome to share it. Like, I just want people to, I mean, the campaign is No More Bad Zoom. I want everyone in that campaign. We need to find a way to use this tool more effectively, because we all have a message to share. And this is the medium by which we're now using.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for sticking with us during this segment. We learned a lot about Zoom, and there's more to come. So stay tuned. We have more fabulous speakers. And remember, the reason you're here is so that you can learn how to be more comfortable and more effective as a virtual speaker. And we're bringing you everything you need in order to do that. This is Angela Heath with TKC Incorporated. Thanks for joining us. See you soon.
I'm Lindsay Ruffin, owner of Park Road Studios, and I simplify video for business professionals. Let's start by talking about why video is important. Video was 80% of internet traffic before COVID. That means a lot of people were spending a lot of time watching a lot of videos. You know who watches videos? Consumers. Nobody gets paid to watch YouTube and Netflix, including you. If you want to be successful as a business owner, you have to learn how to create video content for consumers to watch. Business people create content that consumers consume. If you're not creating some form of content on a regular basis, then you're not a creator, you're a consumer, and consumers do not get paid. When was the last time Netflix or HBO sent you a check? Once you decide to be a creator, creating video content makes sense because video makes it easy for people to buy from you. Marketing these days is about getting inside people's smartphones, and nothing does that for you like video. It's how people get to know you, like you, and trust you without ever having met you. Just like you've gotten to know and trust your favorite TV or YouTube personalities, you can use video to do the same for your business. And whether you do or you don't incorporate video into your business, you still have to compete with the people in your industry who are using video to promote their business. All of this was true before COVID, and now that we're no longer doing in-person meetings, you absolutely have to develop video proficiency in order to get in front of your target audience. Here's an example of a book author using video to do a virtual book tour.
I drove an hour to her home that morning, parked out front, and called her house telephone number that I found online. If there was any doubt whether or not I was in the right place, I was uncomfortably eased because the car he drove was parked there on the street, the car with my name on the registration. In a half hazy, asleep voice, she answered, to which I replied, "Hello, this is Danita. I'm outside. Can you put my husband on the phone, please?" In seconds, I heard his voice. "Come out here now," I said in the calmest voice I could muster. He hung up. After what was probably just a minute or so, I felt like he was taking too long to come outside, so I called again. This time, he answered. "If you don't want a scene in this neighborhood, I suggest you come outside now." How did I get from this point of rage to a point of peace and happiness where the poison of unforgiveness wasn't taking me out and causing me to want to take out people who were close to me, hurt people who were close to me, and hurt myself? You'll have to find out by picking up your copy of The Other Side of Unforgiveness. Go to Amazon.com or you can visit my website, DanitaLynn.com.
Can you see how that video can help Danita reach more people and sell some books that she otherwise would not have sold? Danita was using video to increase her sales even before COVID. We recorded Danita's promo videos back in 2019. Pandemic or no pandemic, video helps you reach people around the world 24/7, 365, and do the impossible of being everywhere at once. This is how you get more work done when the only worker bee you have is you. You use video to clone yourself and let your videos work on your behalf while you're doing other things. Who knows what Danita is doing right at this moment? But we do know her videos are at work selling books. No matter what industry you're in or what kind of business you run, using video to put yourself in front of your target audience is the work smarter way of doing things. Here's how you get started. The key to effective marketing is to identify a specific person and speak to their pain points and ambitions. You cannot help everybody, so don't try to talk to everybody. Focus on your ideal client. Here's an example of how you do that.
My name is Quinn Conyers, and I teach entrepreneurs just like you how to profit from public speaking, even if you're not getting paid up front.
Hi, I'm Crystal Richards with Mosaic Resource Group.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for clicking that button. It's your girl Chef Jazz here, Chrome survivor and founder of Green Panther Chef. Top it with just a little bit of our infused kryptonite chili oil. Just want to go right on top. And then under 30 minutes, guys, you have a meal that is great for your gut. It has packed with fiber, it has vitamin C, vitamin K, and all of the good stuff to keep you happy and healthy.
So if you want to command the crowd as an awesome speaker, definitely click the link below.
Thanks for watching.
From watching that video, can you tell who my ideal client is? Do you think that video will resonate with the audience I intended to reach? Here's another example of where I explicitly call out my ideal client while demonstrating to them how I can help them. Are you a professional public speaker who'd like more paid speaking engagements on your calendar? If you're a coach or a trainer or any kind of educator where one of the primary tools in your toolbox is a whiteboard, then your secret weapon for getting more Are you a professional public speaker who'd like more paid speaking opportunities on your calendar? Are you a professional public speaker who'd like more paid speaking engagements on your calendar? If you're a coach or a trainer or any kind of educator where one of the primary tools in your toolbox is a whiteboard, then your secret weapon for getting more paid work may be staring at you in the mirror every morning. You may not realize it, but you are your best marketing resource. The best way for you to get more paid speaking engagements is for more decision makers to see examples of your work. And one of the easiest and most cost-effective ways for you to make that happen is to learn how to make your own videos. A great video gets you an audience with people whose names you don't even know. I'm recording this video with my smartphone and a wireless microphone, and I can teach you how to do the same thing. I know the thought of going on camera may sound a little scary, but that's why I'm here to help you work through the butterflies and the technical issues so that you very quickly get to the point where you're producing the kind of videos that will bring you the speaking opportunities that you know you deserve. To schedule an appointment, you can contact me via LinkedIn or through my website, parkroadstudios.com.
Hi everybody, Barry Wells here with Turning Point Solutions and Your Career Minute. I'm going to share with you 8 tools, 8 pieces of information that every effective job searcher needs in order to conduct an effective job search campaign. Number 1, you need a business card. Not the perforated kind that you run through your printer, but actually a nice smooth edge business card. Today you can get for $15, 500 cards. You will also need thank you notes. And if you really want to up your brand, get matching thank you notes that match your business cards. In addition, you want to have a resume. In the beginning, a single resume is just fine, but over time, you'll have multiple versions of your resume. A 1-page resume, a 2-page version of your resume, up to 3, 4, 5 pages if perhaps you're going for a federal position. Along with your resume, you need a cover letter to introduce yourself and to bring context and highlight additional skills that you may not have had enough space to squeeze into your resume. In addition, you want to have your problem-solving introduction, aka your elevator speech, ready to roll at a moment's notice. Additionally, you want to have your favorite information gathering questions. And that, in short, will be questions that are open-ended and that require the provider to give you a more robust answer other than yes, no. So with these tools in mind, I almost forgot, your LinkedIn profile. Along with your LinkedIn profile, you also want to have a professional headshot. No selfies, we can tell. So with these 8 tools in your job search portfolio, you will be much better off in terms of competing for positions, pursuing positions, and branding yourself as a reliable and viable candidate. So for more information, as well as a list of suggested questions that you might need in terms of the favorite data gathering questions, visit www.coachescorners.net, and thank you for your attention.
Those examples, as well as this presentation you're watching, demonstrate how powerful a communications tool internet video is and why it's important for you to learn how to use it. I'm able to deliver this presentation 24/7, 365 to people around the world. Again, this was an important skill to have before COVID. Now it's absolutely essential.
Separation and substantiation. This is how we stay out of jail. We want to separate our business expenses and income from our personal. It's very important. We want to go ahead and open up that bank account that we talked about in the earlier video, where we're tracking our income and expenses through one account. We want to keep our personal separate. Once we've determined how to do that, then we want to go ahead and substantiate. Substantiation, invoices, receipts, bank statements, logs, journals. Anything that you can do to track the income coming into your business and the expenses going out. Now, we know receipts are antiquated, but the IRS still uses that as a primary form of documentation. So you have to keep them. There are new apps out there that you can go ahead and take a picture of the receipt. There are so many resources today, mileage apps where you can track your miles because it's super critical to track your miles. You can put a log book together. Whatever you will do, make sure you do it. Whatever is easiest, do it. You can throw them in a box if you want. You can use Excel. You can use QuickBooks. There are so many tools available, but you must keep track of your income and your expenses, and you must keep track of the paperwork. Start that very, very early on. Do not lose your receipts, okay? That is super critical. That is separation and substantiation. And that's how you stay out of jail. I'm Stephanie Fauntleroy, and I am your tax and small business development expert. And you can visit me at bakerstaxservice.com.
Once you've identified your ideal client, you have to develop your messaging strategy that will keep you in front of them. Because you do realize that making 1 or 2 videos is not going to do anything for you, right? Your favorite TV personality isn't your favorite because they made 1 or 2 videos and then stopped. You would never know that person exists if that were the case. To build an audience of people who trust you, you have to show up consistently. To show up consistently requires that you have a messaging strategy from the outset. What are you going to show up with every week that keeps your audience coming back? You plan that out in the beginning, and then you make adjustments based on how people are reacting to your content. But you have to publish content consistently, 1, to be seen at all, because people are busy and posting 1 video doesn't give you much chance of being seen, and 2, because you have to publish on a regular basis to get feedback on what resonates with your ideal client and what doesn't. If you have no idea what you would say in a video to your ideal client, don't worry. That's what I specialize in helping you with. How are you going to distribute your videos? This is a major part of your comprehensive strategy, and it's important to figure this out in the beginning. Your ideal client is going to help you determine this. Where are they already hanging out? Where will they be most receptive to your message? Here's some statistics on LinkedIn that you might not have been aware of. LinkedIn now has over 500 million users, and more than half of those users log in every month. Of those people who log in every month, more than 100 million of them log in every single day. 61 million LinkedIn users are senior level influencers, and 40 million are in decision-making positions. That means they control a budget and they have decision-making authority. Think about that. LinkedIn is the most used social media platform amongst Fortune 500 companies. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a whole lot of opportunity to me. I get to create a profile and configure it with everything I need on it for someone to do business with me. I get to publish original content that establishes me as a subject matter expert and get that content in front of these decision makers who control a budget. And I get to do all of this for free from the comfort of my home. You better believe I'm taking full advantage of that. You have to decide what you're going to do with that opportunity. A message that works great on LinkedIn may not work at all on Instagram because people are not logging into Instagram for that kind of message, and vice versa. What works great on Twitter may not work well on Instagram or LinkedIn. You have to know where your ideal client hangs out and in which of those places they'll be most receptive to your message. Are you going to use YouTube or Vimeo to host your videos? Each has its pros and cons. Are you going to publish your videos through your website and build an email list? Or are you going to send people directly to your YouTube or your Vimeo channel? These are all things you want to incorporate into your strategy from the beginning so you're not doing something different from one week to the next. So far, we haven't talked about equipment at all. That's because equipment is the least important part of executing a successful video communication strategy. But equipment does matter, so I'm going to touch on that a little bit in this next clip. Here's a behind-the-scenes look at my home office. Nothing glamorous about it, and in fact, it's totally inappropriate for conducting business. The reason why I'm showing you this is because you might find yourself in a similar situation because of COVID. You had a home office that worked fine before, and now that COVID has thrust us into doing web conferences for everything, you have to invite the world into your home office, and it's just not an appropriate presentation for the impression you're trying to make. Well, I'm here to tell you that with a relatively small investment in the right equipment, you can very easily turn this into this. How do we do it? Well, it starts out with the right light. You want to get a large, bright light. That is the simplest way to get things done with video. Lighting is the number one thing, and this is where a lot of people struggle because they try to go cheap on the lighting and then they have problems. That's normal. Lighting is the most critical element to your video quality. So investing in a proper light the first time is how you avoid hassles every single time you have to use it. You also see me using a green screen here. A green screen is critical for creating realistic virtual backgrounds. I'm sure you've seen the backgrounds where people are just being enveloped by the virtual background as they move around. There's all this weirdness. Those artifacts are because the software can't effectively determine the difference between the foreground and the background. The way we do that, the way we make that work is with a proper green screen that is lit properly, which brings us back to having a proper light. You want a large, bright light that's going to be able to light you as well as your green screen. Or if you're not using a green screen, you still having a bright light, a large, bright light just makes any type of video work easier to do. So that's why it's imperative to get a proper light. You also see me using a second light here. I'm going to turn it off and show you why. This virtual background that I've chosen is a bright, airy picture. It looks like a beautiful Sunday morning, the daylight streaming in on a beautiful Sunday morning, for example. Well, in a room that's flooded with light that way, you wouldn't see this shadow that's on this side of my face. And the reason that shadow is there is because my light is slightly off to my right because of physical constraints where I'm working. I can't put it straight on, so it's not lighting me evenly. It's off to the side and it's creating a shadow over here, which normally would be a good thing. We call that contouring. Instead of having the light straight on, we move it around so that we can play with the shadows and just add character and some contrast and some interest to the face. Well, in this instance, it's kind of a giveaway that I'm using a virtual background. We never really want people to know that we're using a virtual background. So if I were really in this room that you see that is flooded with light, you wouldn't see the shadow here because there would be a window over here somewhere putting light on my face. And so how do I fix that? I just add this light over here to take away those shadows. And now that adds a little something that helps sell the image. You also see a little bit of my keyboard peeking in. Normally I would take that out, but when I saw it, I said, okay, this kind of works. It looks like this is something that could help me sell the impression that I'm actually working in this space. Because of COVID again, it's really not odd at all for somebody to have a workspace set up in their living room. So I left it in just kind of as a little accent that kind of helps sell the picture. All these little things add up. Now you might look at all this and say, man, that's just overkill. And it is for most people. You don't need all of this. I'm not suggesting that you need all of this. What I am saying is that the fastest way, the simplest way, the easiest way, the least costly way for you to get from here to here is to work with somebody who knows what they're doing. There's no substitute for years and years of experience. And if you want to turn your existing environment into whatever environment you envision for making the professional appearance that you want to make, the simplest way to do that is to engage someone who knows what they're doing. I'm Lindsay Ruffin, owner of Park Road Studios. When you're ready to set up a hassle-free home studio in your home, visit parkroadstudios.com/home studio and schedule your consultation. I hope this presentation has given you some ideas about how you can use video to grow your business. This really is just the tip of the iceberg. We haven't even talked about how to use your own weekly talk show as a fun way to educate, entertain, inspire, and empower your target audience in order to keep them coming back. For lots more information on how to incorporate video into your business, visit parkroadstudios.com to schedule your free consultation. I'm Lindsay Ruffin, owner of Park Road Studios, and I want to help you grow your business.
Stream is an amazing way for presenters to virtually create a hologram of themselves and put themselves in another environment. And how it works is you're seeing me on green screen, and then I'm going to have Ernesto. Ernesto is going to now show a live feed of me on the hologram projector. Now, this is over the internet, so as I'm speaking, you're seeing it as a hologram. Now, there's maybe a slight delay on this because this is coming over the internet, but if you're given the presentation, that won't be an issue. Now, some of the advantages of this are a presenter can be in multiple places at the same time. So if a presenter wants to do a speaking engagement in Cincinnati or in LA on the same time, same day, they can do that. Or if a presenter just doesn't want to travel or they're overbooked, they have some other engagements, they can do the whole thing from their studio on green screen. Now, right now I'm sitting, and you're seeing it on one blade. At the first part of the year, we're going to be able to put multiple blades together, and you're going to be able to sync a standing version of yourself. So also, we're going to be able to take that and put it on this robot that you can see right over here. Right now, it's a UVC robot, but what this is going to be is an autonomous robot. So potentially, the standing presenter can see a standing hologram of themselves, and this robot can go throughout the facility where they want to be projected. This has the capability, that's good. This has the capability of doing a two-way, just come back to me. This has the capability of going two ways. So we can have a camera on the projector, so the presenter is seeing everyone that they're speaking to. Those are some of the main advantages of the for the presenter. They can also, because it's a brand new technology, it's totally immersive. They can do a hologram to the scale version of themselves, so it's a telepresence type of presentation. So the immersiveness of it, the new technology, makes the presentation even more memorable for the audience and more interactive.
So Scott, I really like this, and I love the fact that it's got some versatility to it. And I'm thinking of speakers who travel from city to city to city. Would this work? Would this Holo to Go work in that kind of situation?
No, absolutely. So it, depending on the stand or the robot, the projector or display can be sent to different locations, or multiple projectors and stands can be sent to multiple locations. So the presentation is done simultaneously at the same time, if that's something they want to do. Or just being able to not travel is another huge advantage for the presenter.
So they could actually be at their home studio recording one speech, and if the Holo to Go equipment is in 5 locations, they could actually virtually be in those 5 locations. Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. And then if they wanted to, we do custom packages, so we can engineer the ability for them to have multiple screens in their studio. So as they're talking to one location and maybe they're doing a Q&A, they can actually get Q&As from all 5 different locations. So it's totally interactive.
So one other question I would have is, do you need a special technologist to help you with this? So if you're, in your home office, would we have to connect with you guys to say, hey, send us one of your engineers so we can broadcast?
It's always good, though. I mean, if they are going to go to the extent of doing the virtual presentation, there's also keying out the green screen. On Zoom, it's all automated, but it's maybe a little more involved. You want to make sure the green screen's keyed out properly. Maybe they want to have graphics, in the hologram, which is something that can be done. That would involve maybe a little bit of an on-site person. If they want to have the autonomous robot and be able to have the robot navigate in an area, that would probably require a little bit of on-site support. So we would definitely recommend having a technician, just because if it's Murphy's Law. If something can go wrong, it may go wrong, as we've seen. So it's always great to have a tech person.
So I guess my last question would be, this tech person, do they need to be trained by you? Or is this my regular run-of-the-mill IT guy?
Well, I think it depends on the level of presentation they want to do. If they want to do a stand and just have the holographic display static, and they just want to have a one-way conversation, I think they could probably use a regular IT person on that location. If they want to have a interactive simulcast where you have Cincinnati, LA, New York, and they're doing Q&A in all those locations, I would definitely, get a Holo to Go technician to help, ensure that everything is properly working and setting it up, because it does take a little bit of a custom setup. I think most presenters are going to have a very unique situation, and it's going to require a custom solution. So that's where we come into play, because we our background is coming up with custom creative solutions, using creativity and technology. And that's one of the key areas that we can help, is customizing a solution for them.
Okay. So are you guys like providing the production support, or is it the technology itself? And
Well, it's A to Z. It would be from delivering the hardware that they would need. It would be possibly doing the animation, like that you're seeing me right now, maybe putting some animation into the scene. It would be putting screens or displays where the presenter is located, making sure the audio is working properly. So depending on the level of presentation they want to make, we can certainly help them make it.
I do remember one question that's been in the back of my mind. Big screens. So if we've got a presenter who is doing a large presentation with thousands of people there, could this solution support them with the holopresence or telepresence?
Right. We do have another solution that is, if you've been to Las Vegas and seen the Michael Jackson presentation, that is using a ghost pepper technology. What that is, it's a film that is projected on. It's created in such a way that the audience, it's invisible to the audience, but it creates a pretty immersive environment. Now, that person can be human scale, or we can make it even bigger. So they could be a bigger presentation of themselves. Also, by having such a bigger area to do, to work with, graphics incorporating other sort of graphical information in the presentation, that would be one way of doing it. And I can send you a link to that technology. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, there you heard it, everybody. You heard it, speakers, that there is technology of the future available to you today. So whether you want to be in multiple locations at one time, or if you want to appear on stage at a large conference and do the moonwalk, either way, Holo2Go has you covered. Scott, thank you so much for sharing your technology with us.
Thank you so much. All right.
Hi, everybody. My name is Angela Heath, and I am the Dean of the Virtual Speaking Academy. You'll hear more about that throughout the day. But this academy is designed to help people who are taking their message online to do it with more competence, more confidence, and more creativity. And in order to do that, we are exposing you to some new ways, some better ways to do what you do best, and that is deliver your message. We will show you ways to make things easy and quicker and more efficient. Now think about it. How do you network efficiently when you're online? There is a way. There is a better way. Now, of course, you can always try to put all of your contact information in chat. Oh, connect with me on LinkedIn. Here's my email address. Here's my phone number. But wouldn't you find it much more acceptable to be able to reach out with a digital business card? That's right. It is the touchless way to stay in touch. And I'm going to show you mine in just a moment. And once you see it, you're going to agree with me. This is like really, really cool. cool because there are so many ways that people can connect with you and find out about all of the wonderful services and products you're offering. So why would you want a digital business card? Because even when we open up, people aren't going to be close enough to each other to exchange cards, and some people will not simply want to take your business card, but they do want to connect, and you can do it in a more modern way. So here is my card. I love my digital business card. And here, of course, I put my logo to be the Virtual Speaking Academy. But look at all of the ways you can connect with me. You can call me here. You can email me. And this photo of me, I think, is exceptional because think about all of the business cards you come back from a networking meeting with, and you don't sometimes remember who these people are. Well, with your digital business card, you can put as many photos of yourself, your product, your service as you would like, and they will remember you. You can get a text message through your card as well as the email. And here they can scan anything you want them to scan. For my business card, I have people going right over to my website. And again, they can email me, they can Skype with me, they've got my mailing address here, they can connect to my website here, and you can put over 20 icons for social media. I just have 4. And this is the thing I really love. This is what I really love. Right here, they can book an appointment with me and go right over to my calendar. They can purchase my latest book right from my digital business card. You cannot do that with a normal business card. Isn't that cool? And look at this. Up here, the menu, I've got more than one page to my digital business card. So since I was helping people remember the summit, I put the summit here. And they can even look at one of my videos. You can put as many videos on here as you would like. Of course, you don't want to load your card with videos, but how cool is that, right? Right from my business card. Hey guys, guess what? The Virtual Speaker Summit is October 13th. And you're probably wondering, why should you even bother? There are like a million summits going on, right? Right? Well, I tell you, isn't that cool? I can show any video, product demo, anything I want to right here on my digital business card. Now, I've got this set up as an event. So you've got the date, the time. They can register right from your business card. They can share it by text with other friends or by email. Now, isn't that cool? I know it is. Some of you are saying, well, how will I get my own digital business card? Right here on my card, I tell you how. You can go right here to Get My Card Now and take a look at how that's possible. So when you click there, you're going to a page like this, which will talk to you about how you can get started with one of the best promotional opportunities I've seen in a long time. Through your digital business card, you can capture leads, promote events, get referrals, and again, add your videos. And look at the price. It's only like $250 for a whole year. And look at all of this that you can get. Look at all of this information you can put on your card. It's a way that people can always stay in connection with you. You can upload your logo, your photos. You can even, if you're a store, you can have them click on the map and they get directions to your store. They can download coupons. There's 15, I think there's 20 actually social media platforms. There's analytics in the background. You can customize your URL. You can share things. Oh my God, unlimited pages, images, slideshows, galleries, downloadable files. This is such a wonderful up-to-date opportunity for you guys to promote your businesses and to promote your speaking. And I just want to show you how easy it is to create your own business card. So take a look at this. This is the color that I prefer, but just in one click, I can change the whole look of my business card, right? You like that? So you can brand it. So say you want this particular style. You may want to change some of the colors. You may want to make it darker. Sky's the limit. But I like mine with the black and the white and the red. And here you go over to Page Editor, and it is so easy for you to add something to your business card. So you just click on this plus button, and then look at all of the choices you have. You can add your image, your video, your coupon, a PayPal button. They can purchase things right from your business card, an attachment, your media library. I mean, oh my gosh, this is just so cool. And it's so easy. I designed my whole business card in about 15, 20 minutes. Now I've tweaked it a little bit over time, but it is a very easy process. So if I want to add another page, you can see 3 pages are here now. If I want to add another page, just click here and I add another page. If I want to upload any kind of videos, like I said, my demos, my logo, anything that I want to add is all kept right here in my media library. And I can move my business card around any way I like. And when I am finished making all of the changes that I want to make, I simply push publish. And right then and there, it adapts and it changes to what I want it to be. So this is a great tool for those of us who are in the virtual speaking space, but this is a great tool, seriously, for every business owner. It is a mini website that is available to you guys. You can actually scan the QR code right through the computer and have it go any place you want it to go. I love this digital business card. And it works so perfectly for those of us who really realize we're not going back to the way we used to be for any time soon. So I encourage you to get your own digital business card and to get it as soon as possible. Since I've gotten my business card, so many people have been impressed. So many people have contacted me, and guess what? They're asking me, how do they get their own card? And then they're saying, hey, I watched your video and it was really good. How else can I get somebody to watch one of my YouTube videos unless I give them a link? And I can do that so easily with my digital business card. So this is the resource that I wanted to share with you guys personally. I hope you go ahead and get your own digital business card. If you look below this video, I'll have a link where you can learn a little bit more. This is Angela Heath, Dean for the Virtual Speaking Academy. We start in 2 weeks, so stay tuned for more information about that. Enjoy the summit.